You're fine.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. You have a seat.
Mrs. Grove, Mr. Malkowski, Ms. Joy, Mrs. Lebuzik, Mrs. Lamel, Mrs. Travis, and Mrs. Salter.
Okay, allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. We're going to open it up for any public participation. If you need to say anything right now that you can't say during the meeting. All right, you're going to close public participation. I just want to say good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out bright and early. I think the most important announcement that we will hopefully be making soon is when the coffee is ready. So we will make sure that we get a little break in there for people to go out and get their coffee. But there are donuts and cookies, so if you can live on just sugar instead of caffeine and sugar, we at least got you covered there. So very, very excited this morning to just kind of hear how the conversation evolves and to see what other groups feel once they go to the different boards there and really get to read through. And I know Dr. Bedonia will share out what you have at your table today and how that will work. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bedonia. Had a great time this morning, and we'll be talking as we walk around.
Good morning, and it's great to see all of you back again this morning. Today is going to be a great day. You're really going to see things evolve. You're going to see things exciting component of our process. So at your table, I want to start with this so that everyone has a copy of it. You should have a copy of that Google Docs document from last night. If you don't, just holler, we'll get one to you. This document represents last night's work. So we have 5 areas. If you look up on the screen there, those are our 5 focus areas of study, one of each tables. And this document represents the 5-item prioritized list of their work last night. So what I want to do is first and foremost share with you how today is going to unfold, what's going to happen today. Okay, so our first driver for what we're going to do today is for you to look at the other 4 groups, 5-item prioritized list. So for example, HR and professional development right here, we're not going to look at their own list and put it together, but rather you're going to look at the other 4. And from your vantage point, you're going to have a discussion with your leader will be, your data team will keep data and notes about how you view their org. You may say, I don't see one being 1, it's just 4. And here's why, because your discussion is going to unfold live. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to come up with your order for another group. You're going to come up with your order for finance, you're going to come up with your order for curriculum, and so forth, based on what's on this sheet. Now, this is probably a 60-minute endeavor. So, and there's many ways to do this. I mean, obviously, you can all get your input. You can vote on it. If you want to do it more democratically, if you just need a hand raised, you can do that. There's many ways that you can come to consensus on what number each of those should have. Okay. So your leader will lead you through that at the table and bring you to consensus. So the next step after that's complete And you can write right on this sheet for your own notes as you prioritize the other group, as you see it. So what we're going to do after that then is this. Let's say this is the finance table over here, finance and buildings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the spokesperson for curriculum, human resources, student needs, and technology to come up to this easel. Okay, there'll be 4 people standing there. Okay, and we're going to be talking to finance. This is their opportunity to get cross collaboration and input on what they've developed. Okay, each of these 4 people that are standing here from the other 4 groups are going to take one of the vertical lines here, one of the vertical spaces, and next to their number, they're going to put your number. So HR, for example, if you're coming to finance and you see this as 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, next to their number 1, you're going to put 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So once that's complete, then you're going to explain to finance why you see it that way. After you've given your explanation, I'm going to turn it to finance and say, okay, how do you respond to that, finance? And they'll either say, well, maybe you didn't think about this. And then HR, who brought up the point, might say, oh, that's a good point. Thanks for enlightening us. Now I see where you were coming from. So it's communication. On the other hand, finance also might say, hey, you know what? We never even thought of that. What a great idea. Now they got another idea in their cart for planning. So, and there'll be some groups that might make a verbiage change. So, you know, I think if you change the meaning and add these phrases, it'll really reflect more accurately the discussion and what we want to do. And they'll take notes on that. So in the example of where we're talking about finance and buildings, getting this information, they, at this time, are the data keepers. You're keeping track in your notes of everything that's being told to you, okay? You will also, at the end of the discussion of finance and buildings, you're going to have 5 sets of numbers here for each one. And so they're really easy to find out just numerically what's number 1, what's 2, what's 3, what's 4, what's 5. So once you're finished, you now have all the input from all the groups here in the room. You have your 5 sets of numbers. Once that's done for every single table, then we're going to take a break for about 15 minutes, and you are going to do the final evaluation. So in the example of finance and buildings, you now make the final determination on what's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you will do that by merely moving these stickies to the appropriate number. So the 1, if 5 is 1, then 1's going to go down here. Okay. Now, in terms of input on verbiage, you're going to have a discussion about that, saying, hey, how does our group feel about that? Is that really pertinent? Is that a good idea? And you're going to make the final determination about whether they do change that verbiage. Okay. So this is a real important day because this is where it gets refined, and this is where it all comes together. And this is where we cross-communicate. This is where everyone has input on everyone else's area. And remember, so much of this, as it should be, is interrelated. So, you know, if I'm talking about HR, finance has an impact on HR because you have to fund what you're suggesting. You know, if I'm talking about curriculum, there's a connection there because their curriculum is going to have some costs for technology because they know you can't have effective curriculum and outcomes without a technology component in the classroom and the delivery of instruction. Think about that. Now look at student needs. You know, if we're talking about things like the social emotional welfare of kids, then I really have to talk about what kind of curriculum do we have to foster that in the classroom. Is there time we actually have a discussion with students in our curriculum about social emotional well-being? These are all, so you see how it is interrelated, and it will be really important for each of you to hear what the others have to say as we blend these together to make them formidable for the district. This is truly the refinement process. That's what this is. Now, once that's all complete, and we make the final determination to your group, then the next step is each of you are going to get an envelope that has 10 self-adhesive dots, 2 of each color. So it'll be 2 orange, 2 green, 2 blue, 2 purple, etc. Okay, and then we'll take another. What we'll do is we're going to ask you to go to each easel individually and vote for your top 2 priorities as you see it. You personally see it. You've already done it as your group see it, but as you personally see it. And then those top 2, and as I mentioned earlier in our overview yesterday, that 95% of the time, it's always the same number 1 and 2 as we had from our generalized discussion, because we just get this huge massive refinement and articulation about what's important. So it doesn't surprise me, but occasionally it's not. And in that case, sometimes what we do, if there's a tie number 2 and 3, sometimes we decide to put those 2 together. And then we have 4 priorities rather than 5. Our depth is strong enough to get to 5 years, whether we have 5 or whether we have 4. Rarely do districts get to the 5th one because there's so much work to be done in the top 4. Sometimes they do, but rarely. And what happens is anything not done for priority 5 is considered for rollover into the next plan. But again, we want a lot done with our number 1 and 2 top priorities. I'm not going to waste time on working to get something done on 5 when the urgency is number 1. Makes no sense. So that's the reason we do that. Plus, we want it manageable. We have 10 goals here. Those top 2 priorities are going to convert to goals. And that's going to be our priority. We're going to have 10 goals, which is still a lot. And obviously, it would not be manageable to have 5 times 5 or 25 goals. Well, not much would get done in each area. So this is where our emphasis is. And this is why the prioritization is a very important part of this process. Very important part. So once that's complete, then we'll bring our day to a close, our morning to a close. And what we will do is we will send to you electronically an evaluation of our session. We ask that you fill it out and give your feedback on how the 2 days went. Because we also emulate what the district emulates, which is continuous improvement always. That's a culture. And we emulate that here in this strategic planning process as well. We always want to make it better. We improved this 5 years ago. I don't know if you get a chance to notice it, but one of those improvements was to do a public relations endeavor on the website with a 2-minute clip explaining our strategic planning process. The how-to clip on the website, really cool. That was one example. Also converting to more non-paper and more tech-driven data. That's been another evolution. And so we have the Google Docs document and all the different things that we do. Once that's all complete, Then what we will do is the administrative team will start to develop action plans to achieve those goals. That's the next step. And then I will develop a brochure for the district, similar to the one they had before, with the new content, the goals, the actions, not only for the website, or distribution to the stakeholders. So again, this process is engaging, it's collaborative, and this process is just as much a public relations endeavor as it is a planning endeavor. It brings your community together, and it gives them a sense of vision for growth. And that's a good thing. That is a very good thing for schools. So let me just open it up to any questions you might have about today. Anyone? The easels are all set, ready to go, yes?
Some people like are.
Yes.
So if you go to another board or by how is that handled? Is it then change? Get rid of one of the members? Or did like other people think it's something that's important?
Okay, good question. Very good question. So the question was related to what do we do with the parking lot issues that you may have at the table? The answer is this. If it's something in the parking lot at your table that's related to one of the other focus areas, that's a time when you would raise that when you're talking to that focus area. Say, we thought of this, you know, how does that fit in with your plan? And then they'll tell you how it fits in and why or why not. They'll take notes about whether how to apply that, and that may be the time to do that. On the other hand, if there's anything in your parking lot that isn't related to any of the 5 focus areas, and it could be not related to any of them, then that goes on this parking lot. Because this parking lot is the one that we will then respect those opinions, even though they're not relative to the 5 focus areas. And this list will go to the Board of Education for their consideration. So no idea is left on the sideline. But obviously, we're going to be discussing things that are pertinent to our topics. So each of you might have parking lots, and the time to do that would be when you go to those tables. And again, each area, each focus area, you are the data keeper when you get this input, and you in the end make the determination for your group. What are the 5 item priorities finally? And depending to the end of the meeting. Okay, that's your call. So what we're doing now is you're listening and assessing. Those are 2 things you're doing. You're listening and assessing. And the third step is making the final determination. That's what each group will do. So the threefold process: listen, assess, and make the final determination. Then you're ready. Yep. Okay, anyone else? Yes.
Try to better understand how they got to this.
Yes.
So I try to better understand how to provide treatment for technology. What is the team need by review and recommend assistive technology?
Okay, let me just, before we start, why don't we have technology answer that question?
Yeah.
Would you like the mic?
For that, we're really talking about what we currently have in our classroom, the different programs, SNAP, all the different programs, as far as the more iPads versus this thing. So we're doing what we can, and making recommendations of technology that we need to support those students. And then number 4 is educational technology tools and programs. So one is about actual devices and one is about programs. Correct. And the consolidated educational technology programs, that's kind of more back end. So we're talking about programs that could self-roster using our SIS programs that could push out information into Google Classes like at a gas level, and then have that access easier for staff and easier for students. But right now we have programs that do one login for this program, a different login for
Any other questions? Yes.
But make that awareness extend to students and parents that be helping their kids out some of those children. We're thinking of similar things, Ben National co-writer, you know.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are, we didn't list all of them, but those are things we're definitely thinking about.
How does that along get when you go, when we dialogue individually? Anything else? Any other questions anyone might have before we proceed? Okay, great. Then let's start with the assessment of the other 4 groups, 5-item priority list. And start to make your list of how you see that prioritization. And then once you finish with that, again, Dr. Clemens and I will come around to assist. And then we will have our massive collaboration, which will be the next step.
Okay. Compensation.
Have your attention just for a minute. I want to clarify a couple of things as you're doing this exercise, and that is this. As you look at the other group's prioritized list, you may come up with something really specific about something that should be added. Remember, that specificity should be your recommendation for administrators to take back for action development. Specifics do not go into a priority. Those are general. So just remember that. So we're not going to change verbiage to get something specific in there, because the specific is the action executed to get to the goal. So just be careful, with those two pieces. You can still make a recommendation, but the administrator will take it back when they develop a plan to implement that. Still some very good feedback. So just remember, your priorities are general, your specifics are action plan driven. Any questions on that? Okay, great, thank you. Yeah. Good. So you can We'll be ready in a few minutes here, another 5 or 10 minutes. So if you're finished, feel free to go out and get some coffee and refreshments, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, we're ready to go. So let me kind of explain once again where we're at and how this is going to unfold. First of all, now that all of you have prioritized each of the other 4 areas from your vantage point, and you have information and feedback to give every group, we're ready to proceed. Now, again, remember that, and we're actually going to start over here in curriculum. And so that's going to be our first group. So what we're going to do is curriculum now is going to be the data keeper of the feedback that they get from all of you regarding their priorities. So, and remember, if you're recommending anything to them that is specific, you're going to recommend that as part of the administrator to take that for action plan development, because the priority has to remain general. Okay, so also this group will end up with 5 sets of numbers, as we talked about before, and they will take notes on everything that they tell them. When this is over, and we do the 15 minutes of evaluation and final assessment, this group will determine the final order by putting a Post-it note next to it, and they will determine based on the feedback any verbiage changes or any other changes that might ensue. Just make sure we understand that. Also, when I call up the other 4 spokespersons to this easel, remember when you put your number up, put your number opposite their number. So we're going to have 5 numbers right straight across in a horizontal fashion, so we can easily see what the consensus is for that particular priority. Okay, then let's begin. So I'm going to ask the spokesperson for the other 4 groups, which is 4 people, to come up to this easel. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so why don't you list your numbers? It doesn't matter which one. In your column. In one column, put all your numbers. Okay, next. Okay, and next. Okay, and now finance. Okay, since Fran is at the easel already, we're going to have her start. She's going to go over her numbers with finance and explain, or not with finance, with curriculum, and explain why their group the way they did in their prioritization. So let me give you the mic here, Fran.
All right. We have a very little mark here because there are group handed out, we actually combine your numbers 2 and 3 together is our number 1. We thought that they very much agreed with each other, and we just kind of connected them together with our numbers. That's exactly what we did. Identify established district-wide practices for teaching and learning in order to provide training and resources for teachers. Really struggled here because we're looking for number 1 and number 2, but we couldn't sacrifice it there. We thought it was really what we had to do. So we combined these 2 with our number 1 because we really felt that the backbone of what's going on in the classroom is this is what is the teacher need. But at the same time, we understand for number 2, we need to have that curriculum there as the framework that guides us. So we just find this together for number 2, moving down 4, number 3, and 5, number 4, 6.
Okay, any response from curriculum? Any response to those suggestions you'd like to offer?
I mean, I will speak on behalf of the team. Fran, I see kind of those, it's trying to cause an effect almost. And so I agree with what the team had thought there. So thank you for that.
But I think for our purposes, the idea of we can't establish these best practices. So understanding by design said you have to have these objectives and outcomes that you have a viable curriculum first, then you can see what practices. Because we're all these practices are trying to get this goal. So that's what we can have.
Okay, any other thoughts? Yes.
I think best practice is the number 1 is teaching in school in order to help us. But your best practices of knowing the standards, knowing what our kids need, those are best practices. I think when you rely too much on curriculum as school, that's when teachers go, it's not working, they don't know what to do. So having curriculum as our number 1, I think in our mindset, that means curriculum as the end all be all in a way. And I don't think that's healthy for our district. I think we need to keep our staff and keep our community and our stakeholders that we need to implement the best practices of how to standards, how to, but schools be outside of that in order to help our students be successful. And then have that curriculum piece as a tool to assist us. But I think best practices have to be number 1, and can be number 1, even without being.
Okay.
And I think
Comments, Fred?
I think what we keep out of it, we knew that we were going for 2. So So we know that both of them are going to. So that's why we're comfortable having both of those, but the rationale.
Okay, very good. Let's move on then to human resources. Amanda, Mike here, who's going to speak to curriculum and go over your order and then why it goes.
Yeah, we definitely agreed with the order that you guys came up with. From an HR standpoint, the only thing we wanted to add into that first goal was and in-district support at the end of it. Adding somebody who, curriculum director that was very at the head of that to provide in-district regular support to our staff as we move forward through this process.
Okay, any response from curriculum?
You talked a lot about. Like, right, you're kind of talking about. You're talking about. It's actually hold us accountable and hold each one of these goals. And the staff involved in it accountable and follow through and completion and all of that. That takes someone knowing that it's their job to do that, and then the time and the brain power and the efforts to follow through. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Okay, now let's go with technology. Please read off your numbers, and then explain why you feel the way.
Perfect. So for the technology group, we did look at these. We agree with the order they were already in. We talked a lot about switching number one and number two, kind of going back to Shannon's point, that best practice has to be in the forefront, but that they're so connected between best practices and then the resources that go with it, that they can't be separated. So we felt like if one and two are happening in tandem, that's great, but they couldn't be split. We couldn't move one of them lower in the list. They both have to be happening at the same time. So it to us, it didn't matter which one so much was one versus two, but the fact that they were connected and not separated when we developed that plan. And the other thing we talked about, maybe possibly adding or having in the action plan, we wanted to make sure that curriculum had it, is some kind of evaluation of the success of these programs. A lot of times we're implementing these programs and then not seeing if they're working, or we're not doing ongoing professional development or evaluation of the schools that we put in place. It starts strong and then it kind of fizzles. So to make sure that there's something in there for the follow through. So we were just hoping that that would be somewhere in the action plan.
I feel like,
And just for like all of the different pieces, the best practices, the curriculum, the PD, yeah. And that was our last point, was the tier. We weren't quite sure what the tier data meant. So where you're talking about how we tier students within the programs. Okay.
They district-wide, building-wide, grade level, classroom area.
Okay, any other comments? Now we go to Terry for student needs. You go over your numbers and then explain why.
Yeah, so we kept the same order other than switching 2 and 3. We agreed that, the first step would be really looking at, the core curriculum and kind of determining what are those main areas, standards that we want to teach toward, what are other objectives. We talked a lot about 2 and 3, how important they both are, and we kind of saw the logical flow of, how you rank them that way with, number 2, obviously being a big picture, we want, teachers teaching to best practices. But we just felt we were really looking at number 3 with the training and differentiation. We felt differentiation was such a great need right now for our teachers to kind of build capacity in, and we kind of moved that one up. And that one of importance there for us. And then again, we definitely felt obviously that adherence to the district resource renewal, curriculum adoption. And we kind of talked about the speed at which that happens. Sometimes it takes time, but kind of went through that whole process, felt that it would be number 5, but still very important one. And
Okay, any response from curriculum?
No.
Okay. Very good, then let's give them all around the applause. We're gonna move now over to HR and professional development. And I'm going to ask that the spokespersons for the other 4 groups come up to their easel. And maybe we can push this easel back just a little bit, because I think it's going to be hard for everyone to see it. Maybe just okay, so the other 4 groups, would you come up and put your numbers in, please, for HR and professional development? Yep. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, we're all set. All right, let's start off with technology, coming to the easel, explaining your numbers, and speaking to human resource and professional development, and explaining why.
So the technology group looked at all the numbers. We agreed with 1 and 2. We wanted to leave those as is. The only thing we thought that could be refined in the language is when we have hired and diverse staff. The parentheses afterward talk more about the positions of diversity. We would like something in there to also include staff reflecting our students. So having more diverse staff as well, just as far as who makes up our staff. Then we switched and just moved number 3 to number 5 and screwed everything else up. So strengthen professional development using both internal and external resources. We thought that should be number 3 because that hits everybody. That's all staff, all professional development, using the people we have in-house to help train, and then bringing in those external courses to help bolster that. And then we moved 5 to the end because they're getting that. We moved 3 up with all staff, and we moved it to the end for 5 because that's more of a specific group of staff members when we're talking about our mentor-mentee program. So this way we'll hit everybody first, and then mentor-mentee a little later on. Oh, sorry, one more thing. And then in 5, when we talked about 4 or 5, which we moved to 4, also including where you talk about incentive programs, fund programs in the action plan, including partnerships with the community, just to make sure that's included, bringing in library, police, fire, working with local businesses some more. We were doing that, and the pandemic kind of fizzled without it. It would be great to see that again. And also including in there how we're communicating this out there, the community. We use teachers, we use those things, but that kind of is in-house people versus sitting everybody.
No, I think all valid points, actually, we went through and refined ours after the case, and those were all points we discussed here at the table, so thank you.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to student needs. Please go over your numbers and explain your rationale.
all right, so we are on the left-hand column here. So we basically kept number 1 and number 5 the same. So we felt that it was very important, obviously, to have a competitive compensation package. And we talked about, just this year's endeavors to try to recruit staff. It's been difficult. We're working through a lot of different contract agencies to try to do that as well. So definitely, if we can kind of look at what's the competitive package for folks, I think we'll have more folks applying for work in the district. And then again, down at the bottom, we did see the importance of, the staff and community relations. We talked about that in terms of staff morale, types of things that we do. And I felt though in the middle here, we made a little bit of shifts, basically with professional development needs. Feeling that was so crucial. We moved it out to number 2, and then kept number 3 the same. This one kind of hand in hand with that. Our new teachers needed mentorship, and then we moved hiring diverse staff to number 4. Not that those staff positions aren't key, but definitely felt that the development of the staff that we have is very important.
Okay, response from human resource.
No.
Okay, very good. Let's go back to curriculum.
Okay, I think Megan is waiting in the wings here to back up or say something, so, we kind of went rogue on what we did with ours, because we were redefining verbiage, combining things, so, not trying to step on toes, we put sticky notes up with thoughts that we had. We didn't put any number on your guys' number 1, because we felt as if this might fall actually into the category of what we considered high retaining effective teachers and staff based on continuous review of student needs. And we thought incentives might fall under there, mentorship programs, developing systems to build relationships and connections with colleges. And so I feel like competitive thing is kind of almost a contractual issue. And so that was where we had come in, not even having that, but thinking that might fall into the kind of the number 2 category, although we changed some of the verbiage. And so then the second one was professional development to build the capacity of teacher leaders that align with district initiatives. And so I kind of moved that guy down to here with professional development. And we thought that building teacher leaders, training teacher leaders to help train other teachers would be internal supports, external supports included. So a little bit rogue. And then your 5th one kind of looked like what we determined to be the 3rd, improvement, support, culture, and climate in the schools and the community. And so just different things, Megan had talked about having these community parties or where, parents can come in and do different things. And, the PTA does a lot of that, but, the school itself providing it, maybe district mailers to put out what good things are going on and spotlight maybe things in the community and alumni, something along those lines. But that's how we kind of changed some of the verbiage a little bit, but we did see maybe, I guess, your 2 is number 1, your 4 is number 2, and your 5 is number 3.
Response from HR.
Yeah, we definitely talked about moving number 5 up after reviewing it this morning. We will take all of your verbiage into consideration. Thank you.
Let's go to finance.
All right, we kept the order the same, but hearing a lot of the other comments, I'm seeing some of the combinations that can be made. But what we really came to is that develop the competitive compensation package is so important. We know the climate that we're in right now, we know the hiring situation and options that are out there for staff right now, especially after this past summer and seeing all the staff that has moved on to other districts. That is a big battle that we face as a district that all other districts face, and we want to be out there in the marketplace as a competitive place, still recognizing though this is a contractual issue. So this was almost something like we talked about where our parking lot and outside issues. There's a piece of this that might be out of our control, but we still kept this as our number 1 because we wanted to really show that this is important for our district, that this is a major issue. With number 2, I think all of the other things that we're talking about across all of our groups relies on number 2. We have to have people in place to do these things. When we're talking about curriculum and curriculum directors, when we're talking about doing all of these things, when we're talking about the community and promoting PR, we have to have the people to do that. The people that we have in our district are the best in jack of all trades, and we wear so many different hats. We need to be much more focused with what we do so that we can grow in those areas. So we did feel pretty strongly about number too. And looking at, I mean, I looked at the laundry list of different positions, just from our table's perspective, curriculum director was right up at the top, just to get specific. We thought number 3 was very, very important as well too, just because once we get people here, we have to keep them here. And we need to be able to offer them the supports they need. And one of the big pieces that came out from our group is not just providing them the general support, but making sure that the mentorship program is a 2-year program for all, even for experienced teachers coming into our district, because the first year you don't know what you don't know about the district, and as you get into the second year, that's when those curricular supports and resources, things like that become much more real. So that's why we kept doing that. I'm not saying that the professional development for all isn't important, because we all need this. So we want to keep moving. Just got to do it, but we need to support everyone. So that's kind of a hard one. I don't know if those two can also almost be combined, like the mentorship program for you and continuing professional development for all, if that can just be together as a focus area. And then obviously our community relations is very, very important to make sure that we get our message out there to the community on what we're doing and how they can be part of the school community as well.
Oh, thank you, all great points.
Student needs. Okay.
So the other 4 spokespersons will go there. And we'll have them put up their numbers in the vertical column. Let me pull this back so you can see. Okay, let's start with finance. Talking to student needs. So into the mic.
All right, in terms of this particular area, our team looked really hard at this, and you'll notice I have some extra words in 2 of these spots. I'm just going to jump to those because we actually, in our minds, moved those to other focus areas. The accessibility for appropriate curriculum, we thought was more of a curriculum type focus area, so we almost kind of eliminated that piece since it's being dealt with the curriculum. And down here, the technology for all stakeholders, we really took that and plopped it over by technology. So we really just ended up with 3 focus areas. Our first focus area was the ITSS one. We actually changed the verbiage a little bit because we have a structure in place, so we're really looking at restructuring what we have. We really thought that this is something that drives everything we do, going back to differentiation. So we had listed that as our number 1. Number 2 was the focusing on social emotional well-being of students, but we had talked about being a little bit more specific with that because it was a little bit very general in our opinion, and taking that and refining a little bit. We do have different things in place already, like PFR and our other resources that we're using. So kind of what does this mean? And our last one, number 3, we thought it was very important for early intervention support programming, increasing that because we know that if we can catch students early, we can make those differences.
Okay, any response from student need?
Yeah, definitely, we had similar discussion on all these different points, they're all such important things. The focusing on the social emotional well-being. Yeah, it's always kind of component of the MTSS, and like I said, it's definitely rising your establishing. Definitely saw where there was a great deal of overlap, with the other groups. Support program. One subcomponent of the population. So very much so.
Very good. Let's move on to Brazil. As you meet.
We kind of agreed with the finance kind of group as well, and we almost felt like 2 and 4 felt in other categories, so we didn't even assign numbers to them. We agreed in that the focus on a social emotional would probably be number 1. We thought about creating a district-wide culture that supports the social emotional well-being of students. Our number 2 is not really up here, and we went back and forth on if this fell under kind of the category of number 3, but it was this idea of this positive behavior system that was started and kind of dropped, and that would be positive behavior incentives that would be for all stakeholders district-wide, this positive behavior expectation, so that transition to junior high with the same expectations that you had walking down the halls in the grammar school, and that would help support emotional well-being of students, so kind of interconnected. And then number 3 as well, we still had this concept of the MTSS, the multi-tiered system of support that address the needs of all of the struggling learners, and enriching those.
Okay, any response from student need?
Yeah, when I saw you put PDAS up there, I thought like needs were to be kind of part of the first, the focusing on social emotional well-being. Because we talked about there being so many different prongs or elements of that in the district. Knowledge of the social concepts, and then some of the different things we have in commercial. PDAS, so a lot of different pieces. That idea.
Very good. Let's go to the next word, please.
All right, so we agree with the number 1, but making sure we add all students to that. We moved 2 to number 4, and we moved number 3 up to number 2, feeling that MTSS is very important, but adding on to it as well as behavioral needs. Then we moved number 5 to number 3, because we definitely talked about the importance of increasing early intervention support programming here in the district. And then number 4, accessibility, we moved number 2 to number 4, accessibility to appropriate curricular for diverse learning groups. And then we bumped number 4 to number 5, which is increased awareness and access to technology for all stakeholders.
Any response from student need?
Yeah, what I would say in terms of moving that MTSS system up in the level of importance, the thing to consider is that it really does look at support across a number of different elements of student, let's say, academic support for kids, it has to be writing, but also communication, behavioral support. So the MTSS system really is largely encompassing a lot of different areas that.
Next is technology as they do need.
Okay, and technology's take on it is very similar to what the other groups did. We didn't eliminate the ones for use of technology, we just moved them to the end of the list. We felt that technology can handle the technology needed for the stakeholders for their students, especially what we need their input. Technology can't do that solely. Same thing with curriculum. Curriculum can address the ones curriculum here, but we need the student needs committee for input. So we just moved them lower to the list and didn't eliminate that. We kept the social emotional as number one. We also added the word all students. So we wanted all in there. And one request that we would want to make sure is in the action plan is to address the LGBTQ plus community. It's needs to be talked about. We need to have more plans, we need to have curriculum, we need to have staff training on how to talk to our students with LGBTQ questions when they're coming to us. So we just want to make sure that that's included in the action plan. And then we moved early intervention as number two. We felt that the sooner we could catch these students coming in the door, the littler they are when we're giving them the supports that they need, it's going to help with these other ones. Because they're going to be in the program, they're going to be seeing PBIS and the tiered programs. They're going to be starting earlier to make their transitions throughout their application more successfully for them.
Hey, very good. Any response from student needs?
Yeah, just a thought on, collaborate together, but okay, this is the technology we want to implement, that's a lot, and finally,
Give them a round of applause. Nice job. Remember to switch mics. You're next. Technology. That's the response group. Technology's easel is over here. I moved it so we get better view and also for my mic. For two practical reasons. So will the other four groups please come up to this easel and put your numbers in the vertical column, please. Okay, very good. All right, let's start out with curriculum since you are there. Thanks to Mike.
So we kind of went over them some of them. The mission statement we felt just didn't fall on the board. We didn't know that that was definitely a plan as opposed to just writing a statement, but we get where it's coming from, that we need to have a goal, so to speak. We definitely felt that the new info system was really important to a new student info system to streamline communication across whatever that may be. And obviously that could include the grading system, teachers having a way to communicate with parents and not using 12 different apps on the phone. Number two was the kind of replacement system for student devices. So develop and organize a system like a cycle or whatever it is, because the pandemic pushed them out so quickly in such a panic when we weren't one-to-one. And we kind of did our own number three to develop and organize a user-friendly website for the district. The website is outdated, it is not user-friendly in any way, and it is a great way to communicate it. We just felt like that needed to be on the docket.
Yes, thank you so much. Again, I get why you get rid of the vision and mission. We just wanted to have it as a number one, so it's applied so much for everything else, even within our technology people. Depending on what role you're coming in at, we approach it from different lens. Seeing it from device lens, Julie seeing it from a teacher lens. So we're seeing devices versus programming versus students versus parents, and everyone had a different idea of what that needs to be. So that's why we wanted to start with that vision and mission, knock that goal out right from the get-go. That way, everything else we know. Is this one talking about devices in the hands of kids, or is this one talking about the program on that device? So once we have that driving factor of the vision and mission, then we can move on. So our plan was to start with one, accomplish that quickly, and then move on to goals 2 and 3, because those are gonna take a lot of time. And then for your last one, we did talk about the website and how that needs to be updated. We thought that the website didn't need to be its own, but part of an action plan when we talk about new systems and streamlining that.
Okay, let's move on to student needs and over your list of numbers and why you felt they did.
Okay, so our list is 5, 1, 4, 2, 3. What we had thought was, you know, like you said, that defining of the vision and mission, you know, we have it for the district, you know, we could take a look real quickly at how that could, you know, incorporate the technological aspects of that. So we felt that we wanted major focuses to be the primary things to look at. We definitely felt that, you know, as we've gone through the pandemic, we've added more devices and kind of organizing our system of one-on-one support for students was paramount here in terms of technology for the district right now. And then consolidating those technological tools and programs. Kind of felt 4 and 5 almost could be combined. The technological tools, the assistive technology to support high needs populations was something that we added to that at the end. And then as far as the actually, we talked about dropping that, just because it was something you could just take care of and knock off right away. And then obviously for number 4, it would move up to number 3, then if you combine those other 2. Our student database management system is in need of review, and there's definitely, I think, better options out there that will work for us.
Okay, response to technology.
So just to go back with that, where we knocked off our vision and mission, just like, we'll just bang it out and get it done, and then we can move on from that one. So I think maybe we didn't put that out there enough yesterday, so I apologize for that, but truly, that will help, because then we're talking about streamlining educational technology in that versus our district vision and mission, or just references being leaders in technology and having being at the forefront, more definition of what this is.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to finance as you do technology. Read your number.
We, after consultation with the tech table, kept them in their same order. We had understood about the vision and mission. It made us a little nervous that some of the other things were falling earlier until we had that sense of understanding that has to drive the other one. So keeping that up at the top made sense to us because they would be able to define that. That's not going to take very long to move down the list. We kept the student device program, organizing that as our number 2. COVID in some ways did us a favor by making our district one-to-one, putting all of these devices in kids' hands. However, now we have kind of a big dilemma out there. We're in the middle of one class. You have 4 different types of devices in there. I know what we had talked about and what the tech committee has talked about too, is having a cycle in place. So when kids come in kindergarten, they get new devices. We may get turned in after 2nd grade, 3rd graders get new devices. That is going to be a huge undertaking at the end of this year to collect all those devices back, organize, take out the old devices and get ourselves resituated for next year. In our table, there was discussion about how other districts might use other resources to come and help this, because our tech team of 2 mighty people will not be able to handle all of this. So having potentially high school students come in the summer and work on this in a big team approach to be able to get this organized and to get these restored for distribution. So that definitely is a big plan that needs to happen, because everything else in technology, you have to have the devices to make everything else happen. Going down the student information system, this is really what manages schools and makes sure that we have all of the information, not only for the state, but for our families, for our communities. This has been something that's been talked about for quite some time. So we felt pretty confident that this is something that we are going to be in the process of addressing. So we're going to be able to jump right down to the next one. I think some of these will be able to move up pretty quickly by hammering them out. So we kept number 4 as number 4, and then number 5 of this is just technology. We left it the same place too, because we really felt it is a progression how these pieces happen.
Okay, response to technology.
Thank you for agreeing with us. And to go through with the student information system, like Fran said, that's one that we felt like we could knock out quickly. We wanted to include in there the streamlined things of access though, to make sure that whatever program we're going to addresses the areas that we talked about before. It addresses some of the student logins, that program has the ability to communicate with parents and be one central platform. So that's what that tagline at the end of it is. So it will get the new student information system, but then that will not necessarily be done because there's pieces to make sure we're using it to its fullest effect.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, not to, beat a dead horse, but we basically discussed all those same things you did as well. We agreed with the order pretty much. We switched up number 3 and 4 from the student lens of understanding that a student information system is important. It is what runs schools. That's definitely something that we need to revamp and take a look at, but consolidating the educational technology tools and programs for our students to allow for easier logins and things of that, putting our students first was one reason for that. And then we did talk a lot about just the manpower in our technology. From an HR standpoint, we need more boots on the ground to manage the amount of technology that has grown exponentially in this district, and it's a great thing. But we need more hands on deck to really manage this big system.
And actually, we went back and forth between those two with the order as well. The reason we kept it in that order was because we thought that the new student information system where it have students' emails and connected to it, but then segue, but again, maybe to the program has that ability to do that, would then segue into the streamlined. But we went back and forth.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Let's give them a round of applause. Nice job. Okay, we're going to switch over to finance and buildings. So, if you would please come up to this easel and put your numbers in the 4 vertical columns, that would be great. Okay, and since technology was the last to put up theirs, let's have technology start by explaining your order and why you put them in that order.
So the technology team didn't make too many changes for finance. We definitely agreed with number 1, space and storage is a huge issue with all 3 buildings. So to make that the top priority is definitely the most important. And then we left to where it's at to the building security features. We need to stay current with these. This is the safety of our students. We wanted it to stay second. However, we did just flip flop 3 versus 4. We wanted for the exploring options for pedestrian and traffic safety to move up a little because that's a challenge and it's something we've been talking about for years. It's so hard to get accomplished because it takes help from the Chicago Police Department. It takes help from the architects and planning. That's going to take a lot of time to be able to do that. So we wanted to move it up a little bit higher. We need the students being safe getting into the building. And right now there's maybe being a little selfish over one. We have a lot of concerns with that. So we wanted to move it up a little bit. And then we just moved prioritize and update short and long term down 1. That's kind of already been happening. We already have a short and long term plan, so we moved it down because it's already in place a little bit. And then we kept 5 the same, just continue those funding influences, so we can address the first 4 that are up above it.
Okay, any response from finance?
We struggled with looking for as well. Put 3 where it was at because of the fact that even though we have a short-term and long-term plan, there are definitely things that are not in the plan that are certainly need. One of the things that we had talked about, we don't remember plus that we have whole sections of the building, electricity, like that 1 outlet in the front of the room and only 1 outlet. So we thought that short and long-term plans, even though we do have provided by our architect, there's other things we need to consider. And with the parking options as well as the pedestrian and traffic safety, wow, that is a huge concern. We live and breathe that every day. But we also know that there are certain things, we have it on the list, but there are certain things that we physically can't control. We can't create more parking spaces where we don't have spaces. And we can't physically make the police departments be there for us and all the time. So that was a little bit more out of our reach, and we still need to keep that on the forefront when we get something that. So we struggle.
Okay, very good. Any other comments? No? Okay, then let's go to human resources and union finance.
Okay, HR, we did some wordsmithing here for the first time, which we're excited about. So we, our number 1 is your number 1, which is provide funding for a competitive compensation package for all staff. We definitely feel that's a priority, and I know obviously in finance, salaries and benefits makes up a large portion of the school district, so that would need to be part of the plan. Then we also merged 2 and 4 together and made it improve internal and external safety systems to be our number 2. Just making that a priority. Safety is obviously a big priority. And then moving number 1 to number 3, which is exploring space options, which is something that I know we're currently doing as well. And then keeping number 5 as 5.
Any response from finance?
I do like the idea of combining internal and external, so that way it is up there in the high level of potentially number 2. That way both verbiage that's in there and we can still continue. So that's.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to student needs.
All right, so we're in agreement with the order that you had outlined, the key ideas. We definitely feel that space is of most importance, and then obviously almost along the same lines as that, safety. We really looked at number 4 as separate, but I see now considering that how 2 and 4 really would go together. Other than that, we're in agreement with the.
Okay, any response from finance?
No, I appreciate that, again, that connection really makes sense. And jump back, that reminded me, when John was talking about your number 1, we considered that piece of it, but we kept the finance part of it still. And we thought that piece was here, so, but we totally talked about that. The finances are weird one, because we looked at it as finance associated with facilities. But the number 5, we're very strong about keeping in there, because all of this may shift that number 5 may become our number 1. Or we don't have that. So
I'm so glad you said that. And I'm jumping after Chrissy started talking about it. How that happened in the last hour years, like we wouldn't be here tomorrow. And so we're moving that down to number 5 is not anywhere. And we are doing a disservice to our district, but not that it's not fine. It's saying it's no longer right. And so the rest of these are kind of like a to-do list and for action. Probably, and this isn't what we needs.
we almost said with that before we say our number 1 and number 2, to put some verbiage in this in order for our action priorities to address as a district. We need to continue to maintain, still keeping that verbiage as overriding, and then have a number 1 and number 2.
very good. Curriculum.
So Tiffany jumped on and we had agreed with your numbers, but hearing Jeff's, clearly the safety inside and outside is an issue. One question that we did have is that I was under the impression that the inside safety was actually already kind of being done with the, Studio GC and other things. So is this more, I felt like that was already part of the previous, but that was just a question that we had. And again, hearing the idea of keeping that fiscal responsibility, adding that to the verbiage, I think would be a great idea.
Where the building security definitely have features that you can improve. There's other areas that just not done in the past. Or something that's not functional at all. So we find about safety features. We don't have that. So we're in the process of estimates for what that would look like for the district. We talk about cameras in other sections of the building, cameras on the outside and by our entrance doors. Our camera system right now is not the ability for us to log in. For example, we start over the summer. We have to come to the building to be able to move ahead. So looking at those different types of enhancements, we could put into place. So I think when it comes to internal security features, there is always going to be more, especially with 2021.
That makes perfect
Those
sense.
are the areas where we
That makes big detectors, cameras, and intercom or blackouts make perfect sense.
And I was gonna add to that too, so talking with Sergeant Mitchell last night, Deputy Chief Gasky today, we have done a lot to upgrade security, but there's a lot of different ideas that they had shared, and still feel that we important for us to consider.
That I would just have, because I know with the fire department, there has been articulation in terms of how that system works, and if there are things with the police department, or even grants that could be looked at.
And continuing, we're just not just simply features and protocols, because the other piece of this is our district plan, our district safety plan. That needs to be revisited and revised and will continue looking at so that we are on to together. So that's what the protocols is.
Okay, any other comments or reactions? Let's give finance a round of applause. Nice job. Okay, everyone can take a seat. I'd like to explain where we're going next. Okay, you now have heard all the feedback in every focus area from everyone. You've also been given suggestions for modification, verbiage, or other. Some of those suggestions were oral, and some of them I see are with sticky notes. So you can utilize that, they're right there on the easel. So we're going to take the next part of our session, which will run from 10:25 to 10:40 or 45. Let's say 10:45 will be the end of our next session. And here's what needs to be done. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring the easel, we're going to bring them close to your table, and you're all going to come together, and you're going to assess what you've heard. And you, as a focus area, are going to determine, you are the determining factor here about what should be added, what should be deleted, or if it should stay the same, and you're going to determine the final order. Now, it's pretty easy on the order because it's numerical. You can easily see what the group feels from your 5 sets of numbers. So that should be an easy job. So now the next point is a lot of the suggestions that were given, whether oral or written, some of them may be goal related if they're general. If they're specific, that's suggestions for the administrator at the table to take back when writing the action plans. So just because they don't appear necessarily in the goal, doesn't mean they're not going to appear in the action plan. So they still are going to be taken into account. Next point. Any changes you make on an easel, you can make right on the easel. You can just cross something out and write above it. If for some reason there's more changes than you think that wouldn't fit there, then feel free to come over here, tear off a new sheet, and rewrite the 5 items. That's another option. So that's a determination that you would have to make, okay? Now, before we set you to go forward with this task up until 10:45, I just want to say to you that on your table is an envelope of dots for the final voting. I'm going to ask that no one place any dots on any easel until we give you the word to do so, because we want to take photographs of every easel in the final assessment before we do the voting. Okay, so I'll give you the word on that as soon as that happens. One more comment. I know there's been some suggestions for mergers, and that's fine if you think it's appropriate. However, we should not go below 4 priorities. You know, you either have to make sure you have a minimum of 4. So that depends. 5 can stand. It could go 4 if you feel a merger is approved. That's a decision that you have to make. Okay, any questions before we proceed to this? Because as soon as we start, I'm going to move all these easels closer to your table, and you can start huddling together and making that final assessment. Any thoughts or questions before we proceed? All right, let's go. Sounds good.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Okay, for those groups that have finished, please, data keepers of those groups, please go in to Google Docs documents Saturday final and type in the 5-item priority list. Okay, so we have 2 that are still working on it, but we are finished, so you can go ahead and type that in Google document 2 Saturday final. Okay, everyone, we kind of have your attention. We have finished the evaluation and the easels are all complete with the final assessment. So now what I'd like you to do is reach for an envelope that should be sitting in front of you. In that envelope are 10 self-adhesive dots, 2 of each color. And note the color on the tablecloth. So make sure you put the right color on the right easel. So green finance, orange curriculum, blue is human resources, purple technology, and red is student needs. So you can only put 2 on each easel. You can't put different colors on different easels to stack the vote. So just kidding. No, he said that as a joke. Okay, so now we're just going to take a few minutes for everybody to stand up, visit each easel, and put your top 2 priorities on the easel. Yeah, one more. Would be good. Remember, your 2 stickies should go on 2 different priorities. Don't put those stickies on one priority. Each sticky should have a separate priority for 1 and 2. Up 2. So I think we're just about finished putting the dots on. If you haven't, feel free to continue. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you, and I'll wrap up right now, for all the time that you have spent these last 2 days. You can see the fruit of your labor. I mean, it is very impressive to see what impact you have had on this plan and the future of the district. So my hats are off to you, and I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude for your participation in this process. We will be sending you electronically an evaluation of these 2 days. Please fill it out and send it back so that we can always improve our process. So what I'm going to do now is turn it over to Dr. Lawrence for closing out.
As Dr. Madoni mentioned, I just really want to thank you, not only for the time you put in, but walking around the tables and listening to the real authentic conversation, talking about some of the great things going on in our district, but also being very honest about some of the challenges that we are facing. I just really enjoyed it, and I was very proud of myself that I was able to stay quiet most of the time. So I just appreciate being able to listen to those conversations. And I think what's most important when we look at all these easels and we look at everything we talked about, and I know some of you had great conversations, some of you had ones where you were talking about what should we do with this one, They're all good things. They are all going to impact the 1,403 students we have currently in Chicago Ridge 127 and a half. And I think that's really, really important. Can't thank you enough for coming out. And I'm very happy to say we'll get out a little early again today. It looks like it's going to be a nice day. So at this time, I am just looking for a board member for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn. I second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you around. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.